I've cracked the ending of the entire Poppy Playtime franchise. Chapter 4 of Poppy Playtime came out a few weeks ago, and beneath all its glitchy horror lies a handful of small details that not only reveal where Chapter 5 is heading, but also how the whole franchise will end. Spoiler alert, the ending won't be a happy one. Even if Chapter 4's gameplay isn't the strongest, its lore certainly is. Well, here's the good news. This chapter is packed with secrets and hidden details for all us theory crafters. For starters, we finally found out who Poppy really is. It's now officially confirmed that she's Elliot Ludwig's daughter. And yes, Ollie actually turned out to be a prototype. This chapter is bursting with answers to questions that have haunted us from the very beginning. So today, we're diving into some of those secrets to figure out where Chapter 5 is heading. Make sure you're subscribed, and let's get started. First off, let's tackle one of the biggest questions you can ask about this entire franchise. How is it all going to end? We've seen other franchises go on and on and on, so figuring out the ending can feel impossible. But thanks to a few seemingly random details, I think MOB Games may have accidentally revealed the entire story arc. Once I pieced it all together, I realized we're not only able to predict how Chapter 5 might end, but also what's coming after, whether or not Chapter 5 is actually the finale. So grab your grab pack, because I'm about to show you something MOB never intended for you to see. Let's start with the most frequently visited location in Poppy Playtime 4, the shelter. According to the report, this place was built with blast-proof doors and an electrical generator to ensure the safety of employees in case an experiment went out of control. The shelter was the perfect place to protect yourself from experiments like Yarnaby, the piano dinosaur, Doctor, and the prototype, as well as from our new allies. We already knew that new allies would appear in this game, as mentioned in the Steam page description. And when the trailer was released, it was immediately clear who they would be. We didn't even suspect how much was waiting for us in the shelter. And here, apart from Dowie, Poppy, and Kissy, there are plenty of toys that don't want to let me sit down, but I have some questions. Up until the 4th chapter, the only toys we encountered were either dead or trying to kill us. Even Kissy tried to eat us, until Poppy stopped her. In fact, Poppy was the only one who didn't try to eat us. That was one of her traits. She was the only experiment that acted like a human, without any aggression, at least not toward us. But now, in the 4th chapter, we see that she wasn't the only one. At the very beginning of the game, near the toy dump, we find a report in a diary. It's about a child named Riley, a sweet kid who lost their parents. Then Playtime CEO chose her for the game, and she thought she would be adopted, but in reality, they just turned her into a toy. Interestingly, we see diary entries after her transformation. At first, Riley can't write, but then she gets used to it, and we see that she fully realizes who she is and doesn't behave like a monster. Next, we see a cassette where 2 guards discuss their duties. In the east, the security level is lower, and there are many toys that miss their parents. They remember who they were before, meaning they still have their memories. In the north, dangerous monsters reside. They are larger than the monsters we've seen before. But then what's the difference between them and other less monstrous experiments? It's simple. Time. Over time, the situation improved. Huggy Wuggy is a monster, but at least he listens to commands. Kissy is also a monster, but she doesn't eat, because like Huggy Wuggy, she follows orders. Catnap seems to even be able to communicate, and Mommy is fully functional, though she gets a bit agitated when she sees adults. So all of this tells us that over time, the experiments improve. And by the way, I'm sure while I was showing the footage from the shelter, you guys noticed the wall drawings all over the building. The developers clearly wanted them to be noticed. Many of them have messages like, "Help us, we will be saved." And of course, there's a huge art piece where Catnap is putting children to sleep. But what caught my attention the most was a small side room. Inside, we see many poppies and candles, which seem to be there in memory of those they lost. And according to some of the inscriptions, this is about 40 toys. We can also notice drawings depicting 2 sides. On the left, we see characters highlighted in blue, while on the other side, all characters are highlighted in red. These 2 colors, as well as the image of familiar characters, show us 2 opposing sides. Blue represents the side of good, the side of the shelter, while red represents the side of evil, the side of the Doctor. A real war is going on between these 2 factions, with the good side currently losing. But there is another side that, according to them, could level the playing field and help them win. This character is highlighted in white, surrounded by phrases like "Come back," "We need you, Poppy." Red and blue are usually used to represent opposing sides, while white symbolizes something pure, something sacred. For example, Poppy was supposed to be the savior for these toys. She was the perfect toy, the daughter of Elliot Ludwig. Of course, she could have helped them, but she didn't. Because of this, we see that the frescoes of Poppy have been crossed out. Outside the memorial room, there's another crossed out fresco with a question like, "Where are you?" If you listen to what the toys say in the safe shelter, many of them discuss whether they can trust Poppy. Poppy left them all with a sense of betrayal and pain, and that's when the doctor appears. You can find a leaflet with propaganda that says the following. This opinion that Poppy brings trouble was expressed by Harley Sawyer in Chapter 4. In one of the numerous emails, he claimed that her path leads to destruction. He sees weakness in the group left without Poppy and tries to exploit that weakness. This is why I believe we see so many toys behaving aggressively. They were starving, losing in the fight, their savior had gone, and they needed a new leader. The prototype was ready to intervene and take Poppy's place. They abandoned the shelter and lost the remnants of their humanity. Just as Kissy stopped trying to attack because Poppy forbade it, these toys are trying to attack because the prototype allowed it. And then, if they hold on long enough, maybe the prototype will save them. After all, as we heard in the song with CG5 from the 3rd chapter, the prototype promised them freedom. They thought this was their hour of joy, but it wasn't. He was just lying to achieve his own goals. That's why we will have to intervene and become the saviors that neither Poppy nor the prototype could be. We will kill the prototype, save the orphans that the prototype trapped here, and possibly even save some of the toys that switched sides. That's what I would say if the game hadn't already hinted at what will happen next. You see, while I was reflecting on Poppy's storyline in Playtime, I went back to some dialogues in the game and stumbled upon this phrase from Harley Sawyer before his boss battle. Harley has said things like this before. He always likes to speak poetically with flair, but now everything is different. This is not just a poetic phrase, it's an actual poem. The line "for whom the bell tolls" is taken from the poem "No Man is an Island," published in 1624. The poem reflects on how all people are interconnected, and the loss of one person does not only affect them, but also all of us, because we are all intertwined. And if someone dies, a part of us also dies, so when we hear the bell toll, it's pointless to ask for whom it tolls, because in the end it will toll for us as well. This seems fitting, given that it happens right before our boss fight, where the boss says he hears the bell toll and asks for whom it tolls, fully aware that we are about to kill him. But perhaps we should think again, because his death will be the loss of all humanity. His scientific work, his discoveries, will now be lost forever. However, while this phrase was first used in the poem, it is not the only instance, nor is it the most famous use of the phrase. That honor goes to the book of the same name, written by Deadpool. In any case, the book is about a guy from America named Roberts. He goes to Spain to fight on the side of the Republicans and Nationalists during the Spanish Civil War. He is on the side of the Republicans, who are currently losing the battle, so he joins them in the mountains where they are hiding. His main companion throughout the story is a woman who lost her parents and became a victim of deception by the enemy. The Republicans plan to turn the tide of the battle by blowing up a bridge. However, there are traitors among their ranks, which causes them to lose the bombs and be unable to detonate them. I've heard this somewhere before. Oh right, this is literally the game we're playing. Our character is an outside observer in this toy war. We are on the side of Dowie and Poppy, who are losing the battle and hiding in a safe place away from the Doctor and his followers. Our main companion, Poppy, lost her father and was deceived by the prototype, the leader of the opposing side. Ollie was supposed to be our friend, but it turned out it was the prototype who had been deceiving us. And we lost the bombs and couldn't blow up the gas as planned. These stories are nearly identical, except for one very important detail: the ending. We haven't seen the ending of Poppy Playtime yet, and as we finish the chapter, we are approaching the lair of the prototype. The laboratories feel like the end is near, but the bell has its own ending, And considering how similar everything has been up to this point, I believe Poppy is heading toward a similar fate. In the book, Robert decides to make one final assault on the post, just as planned, but with a few changes. Since they lost the main method of detonation, he'll have to get very close to set off the explosion. He succeeds, but the shrapnel injures his comrades, they're fired upon by enemies, and he sustains such a severe wound that he can't retreat with his team. He tries to stay conscious, hoping he can take down a few enemy soldiers to allow his friends to escape, but he knows his death is inevitable. Now for him, the bell has tolled. At the beginning of chapter 4, Poppy tells us how we can ignite the red smoke and that bombs were our way to do it. But now, we've lost our main detonating tool and the prototype has taken the bombs and used them against us. However, this doesn't mean we have no other options. In chapter 3, Catnap emitted the same red gas, and with one shot from our electronic blaster, it also ignited. You probably know where I'm going with this. Just like in the book, our main character keeps their promise to Poppy and blows up Playtime CO with the red smoke. We just need to get close enough to use our blaster and sacrifice ourselves so that Poppy and the orphans can escape. But the story doesn't end that way. I mean, the book's ending is intentionally left ambiguous, but the story it's based on is real and it continues. I've already mentioned that this book is based on the events of the Spanish Civil War, which ended in 1939. And if the events of Poppy Playtime follow this story, then our heroic sacrifice might not be so straightforward. Despite the brave efforts of the Republicans, the Nationalists eventually won the war, and the movement's leader, Francisco Franco, not only survived the war but ruled the country until 1975, 36 years after the war ended. We can fight bravely, we may even destroy Playtime CO, just as Robert destroyed the bridge, but I believe, in the end, we will see that Poppy is once again misinformed, and the prototypes won't be stopped by a simple explosion. And in the end, even if we die and save the children and orphans, the brothers and sisters will survive and continue their plans for world domination. What exactly are those plans? Well, that's what I plan to figure out in our future theories. So, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss it. For now though, goodbye everyone.